Hi everyone, my name is Twyla and I recently started a vlog just trying to focus my thoughts as I prepare to be married and just prepare for my future in general with my new husband and our future family. And what actually inspired me to do this vlog in the first place is that I have PCOS. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it's pretty common. It affects around 10% of the female population. But not a lot of people know what it is. Basically, PCOS is a hormonal imbalance. Women with PCOS have more androgen, which results in more testosterone in their body than a typical woman would have. And the testosterone usually overpowers the estrogen, causing us to have some difficult side effects. Some of which are acne, which I'm having a little bit of an acne issue right now. Other things are unsightly hair, like hair in not usual places for women. Personally, for me, I'm sort of hairy, like on my arms and stuff, but where I have the most issue is right here under my chin. And it's just something that I deal with on a daily basis. Some other issues include not only hair in places that you don't want it, but losing hair in the place that you do want it. Not experiencing that yet, but always a possibility. So hair loss. Also irregular periods. And then whenever you do have your period, it's oftentimes excruciatingly painful. As far as like menstrual cramps and everything, it oftentimes lasts longer than a typical period would. And then the game changer for me, I guess, is the ultimate side effect for women with PCOS is the possibility of infertility. And there are some other side effects that come with like not having regular periods. Like if you don't have 2 to 3 regular periods a year, you run a higher risk of cervical cancer, which always you can help protect yourself by taking like the HPV vaccinations. But to me, like right now, the biggest and scariest side effect is the possibility of infertility. And like I said, I have PCOS and I was diagnosed a little over 2 years ago. And it wasn't a typical diagnosis because I sort of already knew that I had it. My mom is a nurse, and whenever I was a teenager and I didn't have regular periods, she sort of put in my mind that, hey, you might have PCOS. And then whenever I started having issues with like hair on my chin, she would say it again, like, hey, you probably have PCOS. But we never got blood work done. She never took me to the gynecologist. She just sort of left it alone and didn't really tell me what that meant, except for that it was PCOS. Like I didn't even know the actual name for it. And then a couple of years ago, I started dating my about to be husband, and I realized that it wasn't normal for me not to have my period every month. And I'm not talking like, oh, every 3 months, every 4 months. No, I was going nearly 8 to 9 months with only one period. And I mean, and mine weren't like extra long like some people's, just like a regular period once every 8 to 9 months. Well, I didn't realize that that could be really damaging to my body. So I started to pay attention a little bit more to like my family medical history, some things that were happening to me personally. And what I found out was that it's passed on through your father's side. And my aunt actually has PCOS on my father's sister. On my father's side, his sister has PCOS. And she has really bad health problems. Well, what I realized was that women with PCOS also have the side effect of not being able to maintain or lose weight. And oftentimes you can gain a lot of weight and then it's extremely difficult to get it off. That then leads to other health problems such as diabetes and heart disease. Well, her PCOS caused her to develop diabetes, which caused her to develop like kidney malfunction. She has a lot of problems with like her heart valves are weak, and she just has a lot of health issues that stemmed from her PCOS and the fact that whenever she was a little girl or whenever she was a teenager, it wasn't like, even now there are a lot of doctors that don't really know what it is. And that blows my mind because it is so common now. But whenever she was a teenager, it just wasn't even like a diagnosis then, I guess. Like, I don't really know how to say it except for they just didn't know. And she has the issue like I do with like the hair on the chin, and like it's caused, and I've actually started to see it in me, like almost scarring from like plucking it over the years and having it waxed. And like I try and be more cognizant about it now to be like easier on that skin so that I don't have like the scarring that she does now from years of like picking at it. And like my fiance gets on to me all the time. Like it's almost like a nervous tick. Like I sit here and I just start messing with it and he just like has to get my attention to stop. And anyways, I wasn't educated on what it was. And so whenever I started paying attention more 2 years ago, I decided on my own to go to the gynecologist and figure out what I could do. Well, basically, the gynecologist didn't believe me at first that I had PCOS. And didn't really take me seriously until they started asking me questions like when my last period was. And whenever I told them, oh, that was like 5 months ago, that's when she was like, okay, well, let's do some blood work and see what's going on. And basically all she did was a quick fix. She put me on birth control, which at the time was fine because I didn't know much about birth control and I really should have done my research about it. But she put me on birth control, and that was just to regulate my period. Well, it did. It regulated my period. That is the only thing it fixed. I was told it'll regulate your period. It'll like thin out the hair that's on your chin. Didn't do that. And it'll help you be more emotionally balanced. It didn't do that. If anything, the birth control made me feel crazy. Like, I wasn't myself whenever I was on the birth control, because someone with a hormone imbalance already has some issues, and then you put more hormones in their system, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. You don't feel like a normal person. And like the whole time that I was on it, I was emotional. I was angry. There was a time where me and my future husband weren't together, and I was in a very unhealthy relationship. But the birth control made me feel like I was in a totally normal relationship, because I kept saying to myself, oh, it's just because I'm not acting myself. And like, I only realized that it was not a good relationship whenever it was getting to the point where it would almost became physically abusive. And I was like, I'm not taking the birth control anymore, and I'm getting out of the relationship. So, I mean, that was a win for me, but I feel like if I hadn't been on the birth control, I could have totally avoided that entire thing, that entire experience. I could have just not been a part of. And then the last side effect of the birth control was that it made me gain a lot of weight. And I've never been a small girl, but before I started the birth control, I had worked so hard, and I was the healthiest I had ever been, and like, I was down to my lowest size that I'd ever been, my lowest weight I'd ever been. I was so excited. And then I got on the birth control. Well, the birth control made me emotional, and it made me like eat emotionally and binge eat, and like just the hormones itself cause you to gain weight. And I felt awful. Like, I gained so much weight, and I was back worse than I started. And someone with PCOS can't lose the weight like that. Like, that's not, without help, it's extremely hard to lose weight. So, I guess birth control just wasn't the answer for me. I was on it for 7 months, and after the 7 months, they took me off of it due to some blood pressure issues. And I know that part of that was because of my emotional unstableness, that my blood pressure was like rising, and I couldn't keep it under control. Well, that was like a year and a half ago. And then for the past year and a half, I really haven't thought about it until we started getting close to the wedding. And close to the wedding, about 2 months ago, I realized that I may need to address this. I may need to do something about my PCOS. And I guess I didn't fully understand the implications of PCOS and like how it ultimately affects your future, because whenever I started researching more possible treatments for it, like what I could do to start getting ready to start a family, like I realized that it's a strong possibility that I can't have kids. And I was really emotional about it at first, just because that's hard to hear, that, man, that I'm 24 years old and I may never be able to have children. My soon-to-be husband is 30 years old, and he wants a family so bad, and he may never be able to have children with me. Well, I sat down with my fiance, and we talked about it. And it, like, he wasn't really discouraged by it, but like he understood that it is a serious problem that we needed to address it. But he was sort of just like, we don't know that. We don't know what the future holds for us. And he does really want a family. He's going to make sure that that happens. So, and we're going to make sure that that happens. So basically, I went to the doctor. I found a new gynecologist, and he listened to me, and like he knew that I did my research, because before I went in, I spent an entire week looking up treatments for PCOS and how I can prepare to have a family and trying to conceive. And he listened to what I had to say, and whenever I asked him like what his suggestions were, he gave me two options. The first option was to just try and head off the infertility. And that was basically just by starting me on Clomid, getting my period started, and putting me on a regular ovulation cycle. And that was one of the possible treatments that I saw, but I wasn't that interested in. And so his second option was to treat the source of PCOS, which in my case is insulin resistance. And that made total sense in my mind, because I have a strong family history of diabetes on both sides of my family. And so he suggested metformin. Well, I'm very familiar with metformin. My mother was on it. Her husband was on it. My grandfather was on it. My dad's mom was on it. Like, I'm very familiar with metformin. And I had researched it a bit whenever I was looking up treatments for PCOS. And it has some side effects. Like, for the first couple weeks, you have like some stomach issues. Like, it can cause you to have diarrhea or just like stomach cramps. But pretty much after the first couple weeks or so, it just helps you, I don't know. Like, for me, I feel like it's helped me a lot more than the side effects. Like, they didn't bother me that much. It was uncomfortable for a few days, but I mean, if it helps me regulate myself and prepares me to have a family and like helps me to conceive, and it's ultimately supposed to help you maintain a pregnancy without miscarriage, I would much rather have a few days of uncomfortable stomach issues and all of the benefits that have to do with it. And whenever he told me that that was one of my options, I totally jumped on the bandwagon there. He was very supportive about, let's try this for 3 months, see if it starts your ovulation cycle on a regular, and basically if I don't have my period in 3 months, to go back and we'll see if I need to like be put on a higher dosage, or if we need to switch to the Clomid just for like a temporary, or add the Clomid as a temporary fix. But like, now that I've been on the metformin, I feel more confident about having a family. Like, I was really scared before. Like, there were several days where I was just in tears about, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what my fiance is going to do if he can't have kids. And now that I'm on it, I have a much positive outlook on our future. And I've been on it for maybe a month and a half, and I haven't gotten my period yet. But I feel better. Like, I don't feel as stressed out about the PCOS. It's supposed to help you lose weight. Honestly, I haven't been on a scale, so I don't know what that's done. Um, I mean, I would be excited if I got on a scale and I've lost like 10 pounds. Whoa, that's awesome. But I don't know. I haven't done that. But basically, it's supposed to help you lose weight, and then it's also supposed to just like balance your hormones. And like now that I think about it, I feel better. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. I feel better. And I guess as I continue the vlog, it'll just be like videos like this, just talking about what's going on, talking about any other concerns I have with PCOS or any information that I find out. Like I said, I've been doing so much research, and I've been watching all of the trying to conceive with PCOS videos on YouTube. Oh my gosh, there are tons of them. But you know what? I've learned something from all of them. Even if it's just like a relaxation technique, or just like a little piece of advice on like what test strips to use, like ovulation test kits and stuff. And I mean, that's helping me. Like, I feel better. So my hope is to provide that information too. I know you could go to a dozen other places to get it, but I mean, if just one person stumbles on my video about PCOS or any of my other videos that I'm going to do, my hope is that it's helpful. My hope is also that if anyone out there has any advice for me, that you would leave it in the comments or something, just so that I know that someone is watching and that someone else out there can relate to this. And I know that, I mean, there's an entire PCOS community out there that I'm just now realizing is available to me. And like, my hope is to reach out to some of those and just to see what maybe someone else who's been down this path has to offer. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being a part of this growing community of women that have the courage to stand up and say, hey, I have PCOS, but I'm not going to let PCOS beat me. And these are the ways that I am overcoming it. Just watch my channel for things like that. And like I said, I'm going to start like liking videos and putting up resources on my channel. I've already found a couple of resources that I think would be awesome just for women with PCOS to know is available to them. Like chat forums and stuff that before a couple months ago when I started looking at this, I had no idea existed. So for now, goodbye, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.